Okay, we're going to look at how I would approach simplifying the exponent problem from the Delta Math Check for Understanding. The first thing I notice is that we have 1, 2, 3 main parts that we'd want to break down first, and then the entire thing here is all being raised to the negative third, which we'll probably deal with last because we want to make things smaller, so we have to distribute less and do a little bit less. So if we look at the blue part first, I see all we have is this single z term. So z, x squared, we have x to the 1 in the denominator, so that cancels, gives us x to the 1. And then x to the negative 2 is like x to the 2 in the numerator, we get x cubed. Y to the negative 4 and y to the 5th. If we use subtraction, we end up with y to the negative 9th. And all of that still raised to the negative 2 power. Now I'm going to look at this red part here. We have negative 2 in the numerator. We have x to the negative 6 in the denominator, so I'm going to make that x to the positive 6 in the numerator. And y to the 7th in the denominator, I'm going to make y to the negative 7. So one of these strategies I'm using is I'm putting everything into the numerator, so then I don't have to really keep track of the fractions as much. And then for this final part, all of the numerator is being divided by this denominator, so I can change it to multiplication by the reciprocal. So I'm going to spend a step doing just that. X to the negative 6 over 4xyz to the negative 3. So there I'm just taking this division by some fraction and I'm flipping it to multiplication by the numerator. And then I want to remember that all of this is still being raised to the negative 3. Next phase, I can start to distribute in this exponent. So now I only have to distribute it to 3 terms. And then I can look to turn this into just one expression without a fraction bar. So we end up with z to the negative 2. Let's do that in blue. Z to the negative 2, x to the negative 6, y to the positive 18. In red, there's nothing really new to do. We have negative 2, which I'm going to throw out front, x to the 6th, y to the negative 7. Then we're going to turn everything to the numerator, so x to the negative 6 with x to the 1 in the denominator. Subtraction is going to turn it x to the negative 7. 1 over 4 in the denominator, turning it to a prime number base, will give me 2 to the negative 2. And y to the 1st in the denominator turns into y to the negative 1. Z to the negative 3 turns into z to the 3rd power. And we remember and keep track of the fact that all of this is being raised to the negative 3. Next, I'm going to look to start combining. So I have negative 2, which I'm going to factor out negative 1 times 2 to the 1st. Negative 1 is going to sit out in front. 2 to the 1st and 2 to the negative 2 resolves into 2 to the negative 1 when we use addition. Then we have z to the negative 2, z to the 3 resolves into z to the 1st power with addition. X to the negative 6 and x to the 6 cancel, and we are left with x to the negative 7. Y to the 18th, y to the negative 7, and y to the negative 1 gives us y to the 10th power. All of this is being raised to the power of negative 3. Now that we've got it down into one copy of each base, I'm going to distribute negative 3 to each term. And so we're going to end up with negative 1 to the negative 3 times 2 to the 3rd times z to the negative 3 times x to the 21 times y to the negative 30. And the only thing I want to look at here is this negative 1 to the negative 3. Well, that's equivalent to 1 over negative 1 to the 3rd. And a negative times a negative gives us a positive, and times a negative again gives us another negative. So this can all just resolve into a single negative sign out in front. So I can put a negative sign out in front, and we are good. If I wanted to write this differently, perhaps with all positive exponents, I could turn it into negative 2 cubed, x to the 21 over z cubed, y to the 30th. So that's another way we might choose to express that. Or we could even pull that negative sign all the way out in front to show this entire thing is negative.